Howdy folks, Nathan coming at you from lovely Boulder, Colorado in the middle of winter. And I have not one, not two, but three vehicles that just came in. So it isn't this just in, it's these just in. And they're very interesting vehicles because one of them is not like the others. These two, I was about to say Honda, the Toyota Highlander and the Mazda CX-9 are competitors with each other. That minivan is not, and that is a brand new 2021 Chrysler Pacifica all-wheel drive. And we'll get to all of these in a bit. Now I do have my cheat sheets on me because I'm just going to give you guys a preview of these vehicles. In the very near future, we're going to have videos comparing them, and it's going to be epic because there's a lot of snow on the ground just down the street and in the mountains, and we're going to definitely get these things a little slidey, which is the good thing. Let's start off though with the 2021 Toyota Highlander. Now this is an XSE model. Have a look. There you go. Yep, that new front end design. Toyota found a new way to make a mouth even larger. So if you look at the lower gills, they're somewhat functional. About 3/4 of it is. The rest of that is just for cosmetics. Don't really quite understand why, but some people dig that look. The headlights are squinty. We've actually had comments from certain videographers, including the one behind the camera, saying that it looks a little bit like a Ford Taurus up front, and I tend to agree. With that being said, one of the reasons why the Toyota Highlander is such a revered vehicle is because it is very utilitarian, and they're known to be very reliable. Now this is not the hybrid, this has the V6 in it. So it's a 3.5 liter V6 that puts out 295 horsepower, 263 pound-feet of torque. It's hooked up to an 8-speed automatic transmission. And yes, third row seating in it. It is what I would like to call a mid-range player. A vehicle like this can tow 5,000 pounds, and they start the base all-wheel drive with the V6 at $37,585. Let's look at the interior. And I'm going to let the cameraman in because, foresight, I forgot to unlock it. Toyota has kind of moved into this territory where they're using a lot of fake carbon fiber, this type of material. I'm not a big fan of it. It doesn't look bad for some people. The good news is, the overall design, well, it's fairly handsome. I don't really think there's any real negatives here. The materials all feel pretty good. Good placement. I like the fact that there's no buttons here. I can't stand push-button transmissions, so at least that's a proper gear lever. And all of the actual components you need to use are right here. Half decent size infotainment system. Altogether, what I'd like to call a nice mid-range crossover. But I want to show you the Mazda because Mazda's done something very interesting, not only externally, but internally. Let's have a look. Now this is the Mazda CX-9, and there aren't that many changes for 2021 externally. Slight updates. A couple of years ago, they really went and updated this vehicle and made it look a lot more sporty, considering that it's a 3-row crossover. I've driven many of these. I still maintain that they're the best driving vehicles in their class. Now, let me explain a few things. It is a 4-cylinder. It's not a 6-cylinder like these other two vehicles, yet it outpowers them. According to Mazda, this has a 227 horsepower turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that puts out 310 pound-feet of torque. That may sound somewhat familiar because it's in a lot of their other vehicles with that 6-speed automatic transmission feeding the front wheels, but in this case all 4 wheels. This is a very similar powertrain that's in Mazda 3. They actually have a turbo. Yep, this basic setup. And they have the CX-5. Basically the same powertrain. In this vehicle, it serves as a nice alternative to the V6, especially up here at high elevation, where the air is kind of hard to come by. Giving it acceleration feels good. But here's the party trick. Let's look at the inside. Now this vehicle, as it sits, is $48,200. Very close in price to the Toyota Highlander that we just saw. Ah, look at this. They really made the interior very nice. Now, the base MSRP on this particular model, and bear in mind this is the Signature, so this is pretty much as nice as it gets. Nearly as nice as it gets, I should say. But this overall interior design is gorgeous. Look at the piping on the seats and the quilting. Dude, that is like high-level European car stuff, and they put it in a sub $50,000 vehicle. I'm impressed, and I've driven a lot of these, as I said before, thrilled at the overall performance. There are a couple things though that both the Toyota and this Mazda have in common, which is, although they are fairly roomy and they're utilitarian, they just don't have the type of room a minivan has. Let me show you the next vehicle. I gotta be honest with you, I've never been that excited about getting a minivan. I mean, I always felt that they were unsung heroes. If you actually want a utilitarian vehicle, a minivan is so much better than a crossover or an SUV for people who drive in the city or even in the suburbs every day. They're just way more useful. And the one thing that a lot of them miss, or perhaps they got rid of, is all-wheel drive. Currently, the only manufacturer that offers an all-wheel drive option is Toyota and Chrysler, just like this one. This is the 2021 Chrysler Pacifica Limited All-Wheel Drive S Appearance. It's not the top of the line, it's one step below, but considering what you get, this is basically a luxury all-wheel drive minivan. It can pretty much do everything that these vehicles can do, but it can hold a lot more stuff inside. And for some people, that's the most important thing. If you want comfort with utility, a minivan just completely outshines the other vehicles that are out there. Now, here's an important stat about this vehicle. They're not cheap. This one comes in at $50,180. Now, yeah, that's a lot of money, but remember, this is almost top of the line. Base price for a van like this is around $48,000. That's for this trim, and it drops down to $38,000 and change for the base model with the V6 all-wheel drive. Yes, if you're wondering, you can still get the plug-in hybrid, which we don't have here unfortunately, but you cannot get the plug-in hybrid with the all-wheel drive system. But when you do get this version, which is all-wheel drive, regular gas engine, you get stow and go seating. That is a system where all the seats behind the driver and front passenger seat fold completely flat into the floor, giving you maximum cargo ability. You cannot do that with the plug-in hybrid because where the batteries are located. So even though this has all-wheel drive, you can still stow those seats. All right, let's take a look in the interior. All right, beautiful. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Almost everything I liked about the Mazda is in here, with this piping. I just love the fact that they do that. Say what you will about FCA and Chrysler, Jeep, all their products, but they build a beautiful looking interior. It's a very nice place to be. This interior has been completely redone from the previous vehicle. I always felt that the old Pacifica was fine. This one's even better. And yes, those seats will fold into the floor, and we will demonstrate that in a future video. Here's the cool part. Despite the fact that it has all-wheel drive, which means there is a drive shaft running down the middle, going to the rear wheels, they still have the same size gas tank. You just kind of moved its position, and it's really not that much higher off the ground than the regular front-wheel drive version of this vehicle. Just a slight increase. So you're not really losing anything. Now, granted, you don't have a lot of ground clearance like these crossovers, but you know what you do have? You have access to the roof, and I wanted to show you something kind of cool about that. And look at the size of that back seat. It's huge. No problem for a fat guy like me to get back there. And the only reason I'm not doing that is because we're going to wrap up this video in about 20 seconds, but I wanted to quickly show you one other cool component. Look up top. All right, I'm opening the door. Easy access. These bars, you can unscrew them and bring them across so you can mount stuff on them. I like that. Subaru did that early on, and Chrysler's kind of copying it with this. And I hope they put it on more of their vehicles. Oh, by the way, massive sunroof up here and one in the back for the rear passengers. Nobody ever thinks of the third row seat, but they did with Chrysler. By the way, yes, Chrysler technically only builds 2 vehicles, this and their ancient 300. All right, let me meet you guys up front. Oh, if you were wondering, I think I forgot to mention 287 horsepower V6. It's the Pentastar that puts out 262 pound-feet of torque, hooked up to a 9-speed automatic transmission. And I kind of enjoy driving it. I'm saying I like driving a minivan. What the hell's wrong with me? No, it's luxurious, it's comfortable, it has good power. The Honda handles better. The Toyota has way better gas mileage. But as it stands, this is a luxury minivan. Who would have ever thought about that? And the top of the line version of this is even more ridiculous. You should see the interior on that one. So once again, these vehicles are now in our fleet, and we will be doing a lot of videos with them in the near future. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.